Totallybeads. I'm Natalie, and today we are going to be making a very pretty little cross pendant out of wire and a gorgeous faceted gemstone, which I think is perfect for Easter and obviously all year round. So you can change these up and you can adapt them. You could make them into little swords. You could do whatever you wanted to do with these. So thank you so much for joining me. Janice says it's a wonderful and great beading day. Fog, wind, rain, we've got it all in Swansea. We've got very dark overcast sky here. It looks like it's gonna burst down with rain pretty soon, so I apologize for the lighting in here. It's not great. I'm not sitting in the dark. I've got the big light on. I've got all of the other lamps, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So drop me a comment where you're watching from, what you're doing this morning, what have you been making. It's Wednesday, isn't it? I'm a little bit caught off guard, so it is me here today, and I'll be back with you again on Monday next week. So hello to Rachel. She says good morning from Cumbria. What is the weather like there, Rachel? I'd imagine it's overcast as well. Good morning to Paula. She says, good morning, Natalie. Looking forward to this one so much. Thank you very much. Hello to Lucy. Good morning to Camille. She says, good morning, Natalie. Not a nice day here. The weather looks rubbish, doesn't it? But it's spring. It's sprung. The clocks have changed. So if anyone's watching from outside the UK and a little bit wondering like what time we're on, it's spring forward, isn't it, and fall back. So the clocks have gone forward, and hopefully, you know, you've all adjusted to that. Okay. Good morning to David. Hello to Joy. Joy says good morning. May not be able to see the show, but will. I'm not sure what that means. I hope you're okay, Joy. David says good morning. A little offer's been accepted on his house. That's brilliant. He says it's overcast and he's carrying on with a double Trixie bracelet. Good morning to Sue. She says she's just finished her second bundle from last night's Zoom. Good morning to Anne. Hello to Jane. She says mizzle and mist in Cornwall. Mizzle. I like that. Is that like drizzle? But moody drizzle. Good morning to Danielle. How are you doing? Good morning to Elaine. She says hello, Natalie and everybody. Looking forward to a beautiful make. Thank you so much. Joy's saying it's overcast in Peterborough. Angel's in. She says good morning. Watching from Grimsby. Bright and fairly clear sky here for now. In Cumbria, it's wet and windy. But she lives by the sea, so it's always breezy, says Rachel. Camille is very excited about this one today. Well, I'm glad you're excited. It's an extremely lovely make. I'm sure there'll be more Easter puns coming soon. Good morning to Teresa. Hello to Tova. Good morning to Pauline, who's in a grey Kent. She's also looking forward to how to make this. And Joy says her fingers are not working properly. Well, it's okay if they're not typing properly on your computer, Joy, but they've got to be ready to go for some making. Good morning to Linda, who's in an overcast Woodford. So I've got lots of you in, which is lovely. I'm going to take you over to the website now. An absolute bargain again today, but you are using minimal materials. It is the joy of the make on this one and what you do with your wire, which makes them look so very, very beautiful and definitely worth more than the material cost that we've put on for these for you today. Mary's in. Hello to Heidi. So she's not had a chance to watch for a while, but she's got to watch this one because it looks lovely. Lavita is saying it is just gone 5 a.m. in New Jersey. Good morning to you, and hello to Carol. So let's head over to the website and let's get started. We're on totallybeads.co.uk. Head into the video tutorial section as always, and we've got these beautiful little cross pendants for you today. So we've got 3 different colours for you to choose from in terms of your gemstone and your wire, but we've also got a 3 for 2, and they're £2.99 for a kit. So I think, you know, you might as well just get the 3 for 2 and be able to make all 3 of these beautiful crosses. They are gorgeous as gifts, particularly over Easter time, but you can wear them all year round. And as I say, you can also change those dimensions up a little bit if you wanted to. So you could, make the bottom a little bit longer. You could make a little sword out of these if you wanted to. They are fairly straightforward, just using 2 gauges of wire and a beautiful faceted gemstone. So we've got an amethyst for you, which is on light gold wire. We've got obsidian, which is on the silver plated wire. And we've also got rose quartz, which will be on the rosy pink coloured wire, which is very, very pretty. Head into your kits and you can see what you've got. So this is the amethyst. Your chain isn't included, but that's what it looks like if you want to pop a chain through it. You could do a beaded chain as well if you wanted to. You could have popped them on a key ring. You could do whatever you want, but I have designed these to be worn as pendants. So you're going to get one faceted round gemstone, which is 6mm. This is the amethyst. It looks very beautiful, I think, against that light gold. We've got 100 centimetres of your 0.4mm wire. You're not going to need it all, I don't think, but we've made sure there's plenty in there for you to use. And you've also got your 1mm wire as well, which is what we're going to be using to create the actual kind of base of the cross. The 0.4 is going to be used for doing a little bit of weaving. And then we've also got that 1mm just going around. We're going to create a little coil and some decorative bits that run along the arms of the cross. £2.99 today for your amethyst. We've also got the gorgeous obsidian. Again, everything in your kit. You don't need much to make these beautiful crosses. So you've got your gemstone. This is your obsidian gemstone. You've also got your 0.4mm wire, and you've got that 1mm wire as well, which I think is it 18 gauge for 1mm? And I think your 0.4 is 26 gauge maybe. I'm not great doing the wire conversions off the top of my head, but it's all measured out for you and you can just shape it as you go, and I'll show you how to do that step by step. So this is your beautiful obsidian pendant, looking very pretty. And we've also got the rose quartz. Now, rose quartz is a symbol of love, self-love, care, all of the lovely things that are attributed to this stone. So I think it looks very pretty on that little rose pink wire there as well. £2.99 for each kit, or you can get a 3 for 2 offer. An absolute bargain, I think, anyway. So I'm going to say a quick hello to anybody I may have missed in the comments, and then we're going to get making. It shouldn't take us too long to do. I will go through it very slowly with you so I can talk you through it step by step. Good morning to Linda. Mina's in. She says it's cloudy and dark in Leicester. Mary's in. Hello, love. How are you doing? Are you well? Heidi says good morning. That comment's come through twice because I have read that one already, haven't I, Heidi? I'm glad you're with us today. Good morning to Carol, and Janice has bought one of each. Lucy shared the link for you here today, so it's Totallybeads. Totallybeads.co.uk/Facebook tutorials/wire cross pendant. Hello to Kentisbury. She says the sound is better on YouTube. I hope you can hear me okay, everybody. Jackie's in. Lucy said it's a little bargain today. It really is. And she's saying good morning to Mina. Patricia is in saying good morning to me and the Beading family from Hull in Yorkshire. Julie is saying hello to everybody. It's a miserable day in Wales where she is. Mina saying hello to Camille. Heidi has said she's had to get all 3 with a really good bargain for Easter presents to herself. Yeah, absolutely. When you've got a gorgeous gemstone, I mean, they're probably a little bit long to wear as earrings, but you can have all 3 and change them up. So if you want to keep these for yourself, of course, you can change them with whatever necklaces and things that you like. I think today I'd probably be wearing the light gold one with me being in an Easter yellow jumper. So I think I'm probably going to demo with that one for you today. Let me see what else I've missed. I've said hello to most of you, I think. I hope so. I hope I've not missed anyone. Angela says she loves this little cross. Anita's in. Hi from Johannesburg in South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. Lucy says the rose one's her favourite. That doesn't surprise me. Joanne is saying good morning all. Very dull and wet this morning. Perfect day for crafting, isn't it just? Angela's asking, what's going on? Why am I here on a Wednesday? I am travelling down to the warehouse on Friday, so I'm going to be on the train rather than doing a live with you on Friday, because, I mean, I could try and do a live on the train, but the signal's probably not great, and sometimes you don't know whether you're even going to get a seat. So I'm going to be here today. Kitty's with you on Friday, and then I'll be back with you on Monday from Kitty's house. So, little bit of change to the schedule. Camille says she loves them all. Paula says, oh, they've all just jumped into a basket. Good morning to Debbie. Hello to Tutu. Tracy is saying good morning from Stoke-on-Trent. Debbie's asking if I've got the link for the chains. If you just type in chain into the search bar, Debbie, they'll all come up for you. You can make your own by attaching your own clasps, or you can buy them ready-made. I think the one I've got on the desk, can't think what it's called, but it is a Totallybeads one, so I'll show you them down on the mat. Good morning to Sheila. Pauline says they look great. Patricia's saying she spent 3 hours trying to do the Annie rings, but she's still trying. She loves them and she's going to keep going and they won't beat her. Can't even remember which ones they were, but I think that was a mine, wasn't it? I think it was. Was it the ones with the little heart chain on them? Thank you, Lucy. If you're looking for chains, you can click on this link here from Lucy and that will take you through to the chains on the website. Right, let's get going. Let's go down on the mat. I'll have a little sip of my coffee and I will show you what we're making today. So you've got 3 different colours to choose from. Your gemstones are faceted. So you've got that lovely little pink one. Thanks, Lucy. Smoffy says, oh, 2 of each just jumped into my basket. They're such a bargain, aren't they? So this is your light gold one with the amethyst. So you can see we are going to be using that 1mm wire to shape our cross. We're going to do a little bit of weaving. I'm just going to use 1 length of wire to weave on the main base of the cross. And another little bit here is going to be used to do a little bit of what we call coiling. Lucy says it's exceptional. Oh no, Camille says it's exceptionally good. Thanks, Camille. Did have lots of Easter punjo type things. I've been working on them and I can't remember them now. Linda says 2 of each is also falling into her basket. And then we have the little silver one too. So I'm just using a 6mm bead in the middle. You can see it's faceted, so it's very pretty, very, very shiny. And we're going to create a lovely little cross. And you can create some decorative swirls at the top and keep that bail large enough to pop a chain through. If you want to make that bail larger, you can do if you wanted to do a beaded chain, or if you wanted, you might not even want to attach this. You might want to kind of secure it somewhere where you can kind of just hook it on if need be, so you can reattach it to different things. Shall we get going? Okay, so I'm using the 1mm wire here. So all I'm going to do is just straighten it up a little bit off my reel. So I'm just going to run it through my nylon coated pliers. You can do it with a cloth, you can do it with any wire straighteners. Just want to get the kinks out. And I'm going to cut about 7 inches of that. So I'm going to line it up against my ruler. And I'm just going to give it a little trim. So I've got 7 inches of my 1mm wire. Now what you can do, if you like, you can draw yourself a little sketch of the cross just to give yourself dimensions. And although I'm going to tell you exactly the measurements which I've done, if you've drawn a little diagram, it sometimes can help when you're placing your cross on to work out kind of how long the arms of the cross need to be and things like that. It's just a good point of reference for you to help you get your dimensions. Good morning, Margaret. She says she's watching with Richard. Wire wrapping is great. And good morning to Tree Lynn. Okay, so I've just cut 7 inches of my 1mm wire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find the middle point of it. Let me move these out of the way. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring those ends up together to try and find the centre there or thereabouts. And I'm going to bring that down together and push it together with my fingers to begin with, but then I'm going to come in with my tools. Where are my pliers? I'll use these ones. And I'm just going to put my plier on it just to create a little bit of pressure, because what I want is these two ends of the wire to run really close together. So they're going to be running parallel, but I'm just making sure that they are nice and close, and I can't get that bend fully with my fingers. So I'm just going to come in with my tools and just push it gently together. So I've got a little bend in the midway point. You will find it tends to bend together, but don't worry too much about that. So this is going to create the main drop part of my cross, and I'm going to bend out again to make the arms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it either on my diagram or against my ruler, and I'm going to bend about an inch up. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to see where about an inch is. If you want to, if you've got a little pen, you can mark on that. I've got a little witchy pencil here, just so I can kind of see where or whereabouts. A pencil's always helpful because you can just rub those marks off. But that's going to be around an inch, and that's going to be where my arms come out. So I'm going to take my pliers again, and I'm just slightly above that little mark, about an inch up from that bend. I'm going to start turning out my wire. Like so. So I want it roughly about the same. So these bends will come out, which will start to form the arms in a little bit, and they're going to go out. So I've gone about an inch up from that bend. David said they've all just popped into his basket. Now I'm going to start my weave. So I'm going to get my 0.4 wire, and I've cut about 60 centimeters of this wire. So it's not attached to my reel at the moment. I wanted to make sure I've measured it out pretty much perfectly for you. And I'm just going to start my weave on the base of the cross. So if you need to, you can open these out a little bit to get your wire in between. I'm just going to thread my 0.4 through to the very, very bottom of that cross. I'm going to bend a little bit over so I've got a little bit of a tail end, and I'm going to wrap that 0.4 wire around the 1mm just on the bottom. So if I'm holding it horizontally, I'm going to call this the top wire and this part the bottom wire. But of course, it's just one piece of wire bent into that shape. So I'm going to wrap my 0.4 3 times along the bottom of that 1mm wire. So just bringing it through. Every now and again, I'm just going to come in with my tools while I do this weave, just to kind of neaten it up and tuck it in together. So those little 3 wraps that I've just done will secure them down. I don't want to be overlapping. I just want 3 little coils to attach it on. Now what you can do is you can take this little tail end and you can come in with your cutters and give it a trim off. And then with your pliers, just make sure there's any sharp edges are just tucked down neatly so that's not going to catch on anything. So I've just secured that wire on 3 times. So I'm going to keep hold of the end where that little bend is, and I'm going to bring my weaving wire up, and I'm going to wrap twice over both of the wires, so wire 1 and 2. Don't worry if it moves a little bit, you can just slide it back into place. So 3 coils to attach, 2 wraps over both. I'm then going to bring my weaving wire up between the middle, and I'm going to wrap twice over the top wire. So bring it in. As I say, if you need to splay these out a little bit to get in between, that's fine. And every now and again, just to make sure my wrapping's nice and neat, I'm going to come in with my pliers and compress that down. I'm then going to go 2 wraps over both again. And then I'm going to do 2 wraps over the bottom base wire. So you hold this however you like. I think it's easier for me to try and explain it by holding it this way for you, just so you can see. But essentially what we are doing is we are doing 2 wraps over the middle, the top, the middle, the bottom. And each time I do a wrap on one side, I'm going to put 1 wrap around the both, and I'm just going to keep repeating that. So wrap around both, up between, and 2 wraps over the top wire, wrapping over both sides, wrapping over twice on the bottom, twice over both, in between, twice over the top, twice over both, and twice over the bottom. So that is the weave that I'm repeating. So essentially, I'm going to be wrapping twice over alternate sides of the wire and both of them at the same time. I'm hoping I can get a little bit of focus. Sometimes if I'm too close to the camera, it does blur a little bit. Every now and again, just come in with a pair of pliers and just push that weave down to compress it. I do sometimes do it with my fingernail. Camille says, I'm watching, concentrating very hard. It's a very easy weave to do. Twice over both, up between the 2, twice over the top, twice over both, and 2 wraps onto the bottom one. So each time I'm wrapping, I don't want my wire, my 0.4 wire that I'm weaving with, to overlap. I just want those wraps to just sit neatly next to each other. And I'm just going to complete that pattern until we get all the way up to the bends, which will form the arms of my cross. So over both, over the top, over both. Here my tail end of that wire just tapping against my computer and my reel and whatnot. Just push that in together. 2 over the bottom. And you can do any weave you want to do really on this. It's just to make sure, excuse me, that I'm kind of attaching these 2 sides together. Mina says, I need to try this weave, but also think it's difficult, so not attempted it yet. It's really, really straightforward, but you can do any weave you want to, Mina. Just bring in those wires together. So 2 over both, up between the 2, wrapping twice over the top one, over them both, and then twice over the bottom one. And again, just keep coming in every now and again with your pliers, just to compress that weave together, just to make it neat. So I'm just giving it a little push. And you'll probably repeat that full weave maybe around 7 times. I've not really counted. I'm just going to go until I reach the top. So I think I'm going to do one more over both, and then I'm going to finish doing 2 wraps just here on that arm. So I've already created what is going to be the base of my cross, and I've weaved up until the arms of the cross come out. So now I'm going to start to form my arms, and I want my arms to be about 1 centimetre outwards. So again, if you've got your little drawing, you can position it against there. You can come in with a pencil and you can mark it on your wire, or you can take your ruler, and you can do this by eye, but I want to make sure that both arms are there or thereabouts looking the same. So I'm just going to mark 1 centimetre from the middle of my cross outwards on each side. Let's pop that there. Now I'm going to come in with my tools and leaving this weaving wire attached. Don't get rid of this just yet. And I'm just going to bend up vertically where that point is. I think actually I might want to make that a little bit longer. So I'm just going to straighten that wire back out again. And I'm going to just take it just past that little mark, and I'm going to bend it upwards. And I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm just bending up the wire, and then I'm just going to have a little look to check they look about the same. If they don't, straighten it back out again. Just check it by eye. So I've got this kind of like tuning fork shape at the moment. These little bits are just going to form the arms of my cross. So I'm just bending them both up just so I can check by eye that they look about even. Again, if I want to, I can position that on my little diagram and check I'm happy with the length of that. And then I'm going to bend this right across just like we did making the base of the cross. So I want to bend it all the way over, and I want to use my tools to flatten them down. Now it might twist a little bit, so just keep your thumb and your finger giving it a little bit of pressure just to hold it in place while I just compress these little ends. Now they don't have to be completely flat against each other, but I think you want to get that as kind of, so it's touching itself when it's coming back. Just going to give that a little squish with my tools. And now I'm going to bring this back up at the center point. So I'm just going to look with my eye, and I'm going to find the midpoint where that wire comes back in line with the base of my cross. And I'm going to give it a little turn back up. So I'm going to hold on to this bend that I've created, and I'm going to turn that wire back up. Now the 1mm wire is lovely. It's still soft enough to work with, but it's sturdy too. So you could hammer this if you wanted to. Obviously hammer, I would say, before you do your weaving or not on your weaving. So you could hammer this bit after you've wove. If you hammer onto your weave, you can kind of damage that because it's quite a thin wire. But using that 1mm wire, you probably don't need to. If you do hammer on the opposite side, and that will make this bit a little bit smoother. So I'm now going to start creating the other arm. So again, I'm bending this wire all the way in. I'm going to come in with my pliers, and I'm going to start to squish those wires down together. So they're running parallel against each other. It's the one wire, it's one piece of wire, but with that bend, that's going to run back in towards the center of my cross. And I'm also going to do the same here. So I'm going to find that center and I'm going to start to bend my wire back upwards. So what I want is these 2 wires that are running up the top of the cross to be in line with the bottom of the cross. So you can just take your time with it, just to kind of reshape it if you need to, and check that you're happy with where that bend's sitting. If you need to compress those wires in again, you can do that, and then just pull it back out. So these 2 wires should now be running up vertically and next to each other, and they should be straight in line with the bottom of the cross. So just give it a little bit of a manoeuvre, a little bit of a fiddle with it, just till you're happy. You can lie that against your diagram or your little sketch if you've done one, just to measure that out. Okay, what I'm going to do when I'm happy is I'm going to attach my gorgeous bead. So I'm using here the beautiful Faceted amethyst, and I'm going to slide that on to that 0.4 weaving wire. Mina's saying, can I borrow the other half's hammer from his toolbox? I'm sure you can if he'll let you, but you don't need it for this because that 1mm wire is nice and sturdy. Camille went and bought an anvil and a hammer. She went all out. Okay, so I've threaded my bead onto the wire that's still attached from this weave at the bottom of the cross. And I'm just going to place it so that wire is now running horizontally, kind of, well, it's more diagonally actually, from this bottom corner to the top. I'm going to check it straight and sitting in the middle, in the center of my cross. And I'm going to bring that weaving wire in between those 2 pieces that are out the top, and I'm going to wrap it very tightly and firmly 3 times around this one base wire to hold that bead in place. And then I'm going to continue the same weave from down here at the top of the cross, but I'm going to do that probably for about 1/2 inch. So again, if you want to, you can look at it on your diagram, but I'm going to be making a little bit of a bail at the top of that. So I'm just going to weave for about 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can do this by eye, but I would say round about there. I'll draw a little mark on it. Don't know whether you can see my pencil there. Little faint mark just to know where I need to stop wrapping. So I've attached that bead onto that top wire to secure it in place. It's now sitting dead center in the middle of my cross. So my arms are on one side and the base of the cross is running up through it as well. So I'm going to wrap twice around both wires. You can splay these out a little bit if you need to get your wire in between. I'm going to do twice around the bottom. I'm going to come in every now and again and just slide that weave up to compress it. Twice around them both. Every couple of wraps, just make sure it's nice and neat. In between the wires, twice over the top. So I'm holding it horizontally again, just so I can show you, or explain rather, by referring to this as the top wire and this as the bottom wire. So, twice around both, coming in, twice around the top, twice around both, twice around the bottom. So it's the same weave as we started with at the bottom, just running all the way up the top with the same one length of 0.4mm wire, which I would say is about 60 centimeters in length. Twice around the top. Each time I do one side, I do 2 wraps around both. twice around the bottom, twice around both, and twice around the top. And I'm just going to have a little look at that and check that I'm happy with my proportions. And I think that looks about right. I'm still going to keep that tail end of the wire on. So I'm keeping that on for now. So I've already created the main base and the main frame of my cross. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a coil that runs around here, and I'm going to start decorating my arms. And I'm going to do this part before I form the veil. Little bit of focus. There you go. So I'm just making the decoration to run around that bead in the middle. So I'm going to take another piece of my 1mm wire, and I'm going to cut about 4 inches of this. So I have my wire here, and I'm going to use my 0.4 again. Now this, you probably need about 30 centimeters, if that really. All I'm going to do is I'm going to create about 1 inch of coil, just enough that's going to wrap around that bead. So I'm going to take my tail end of my 0.4 and I'm going to position it fairly central. I can slide this up if I need to, and I'm going to wrap that wire around the 1mm wire. You can do this part with a 0.8 as well if you want to, but we think it's easier to just put all the same gauge in your kit. So I'm going to trim off that little tail end where I started, and I'm going to tuck it into the coil so it's nice and flush against it and there's no sharp bits. Now to make the coil, all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to what I'm referring to as the base wire, this 1mm wire, and with the 0.4 I'm just going to wrap continuously around. Now don't worry if it spaces out a little bit like this. You can just come in with your nails or your tools and compress that down. But when making a coil, I want each wrap to just sit very neatly next to it. I don't want to overlap it. I don't want the wire, this 0.4, to be sitting on top of each other or going backwards. I'm just moving along that wire. So I'm bringing it round and I'm just continuously wrapping all the way around. Keep compressing it in. So I'm making this little coiled part. Morning Phoenix Creation, she says good morning, or late again. Meg took longer on a morning dawdle. I hope you're well, Karen. I know Camille, she says Joe's going to tell you off about your nails. Joe says your nails are jewels, not tools. But as you can see, my nail varnish always gets chipped on my thumbs because I do use them as tools. You can use your actual tools. I just find it easier to use my finger. So I'm just wrapping, and I'm going to keep making this coil all the way along. I'm going to have it fairly central in the middle of my wire, and I'm going to wrap for about 1 inch. So every now and again, I'm just going to pop it against my ruler, and I'm going to see I've got a little bit more to go there. So just keep wrapping it round. You probably need less than 30 centimeters, I think, to make the coil on this section of the 0.4 wire. So keep going. I think, well, I'm bob on 1 inch there. I don't think I'm going to need any more. So when I'm happy with the length, I'm going to trim off. So just move that ruler out the way. And I'm going to tuck that end in. So what I'm doing is I'm just using my pliers to push that weaving wire against that base wire, that 1mm wire, just to compress it so I've got no sharp bits sticking up. And I'm just going to have a little look to check that there or thereabout, do apologise, not in shot there, fairly central in the middle of my wire. I'm now going to start positioning this around the bead. So I'm going to hold it underneath the arms, so it's coming up from the bottom, and I'm going to start to shape it and curve it around. So you can adjust this as you go. I kind of want it in the middle, and I'm just going to wrap quite closely around that bead. So I'm going to bring one wire around the top, and the other end is going to go around the other way. So I'm kind of making a little circular shape around my stone. I'm holding it in place in between my thumb and my finger, because I'm going to bring this wire around the back here to anchor it in place. And I'm going to bring this over the other side, so it's coming now around the back of my arms. Not my arms, but the arms on my cross. If you want to, you can come in with your tools and you can give that a little push just to make sure that it's sitting snugly around that bead. And I'm just going to position it so I'm pulling it tight. So this wire now that is coiled around the bead is running along the back of the arms here. And I'm going to bring it over and down into position to secure. And again, you can do this with your tools just to make sure that it's nice and tight around the arms on the cross, but also that these little wraps are going to be hidden by this coil. So I'll show you on the other side. The wire is coming over the back of the arm of the cross and bringing it back around and back down again. I'm going to push it so it's nice and tight and just give it a little look to check that it's hidden behind that coil. Now these bits here, you can do whatever you want with. You can do swirls, you can do kind of curls with it, you can do whatever you want to decorate these arms. If you want to leave the arms plain, then I would just lift this wire back up and trim it at the top. So it's not cut at the back, so it's not scratching. It's just going to be underneath that little coil there, and you can just keep them plain. But what I like to do is I like to kind of make little swirls and patterns on them here. What I tend to do is I do one thing on one arm, and then I'll do the same thing on the other arm. And I work on both sides at the same time, just so I can create that little bit of symmetry. Just going to give it a little gentle tighten around there, just so it's nice and tight around that bead. So to create the symmetry, I'm just going to do one thing at a time on each arm. So at the minute, I'm just going to create little kind of bends and swirls. Can be a little bit tough to kind of manipulate this wire, because it's a nice thick gauge. I'm just going to have a little look and check they look about even. They don't have to be completely symmetrical. I don't want them hanging too far off the top or bottom of the cross. Just a little bit to add that decoration. Then I'm going to hold that swirl with my pliers to keep it in place. And I think I'm going to go bring it back around the back. And the same on the other side. When I'm happy where it's fixed, just holding that curl in place, bringing the wire around the arm. And then I think I'm going to finish off with some little curls. So bringing that right round the front again. Just going to give it a little press so it's running nice and tightly along the cross. It's not sticking up too much, it's not going to catch on things. I'm going to trim off that excess. And then with my round nose pliers, I'm going to create some little curls. So I'm just putting it in the tip, very tip of my round nose. And what I would like is those little swirls to kind of meet itself so there's nothing that can catch. So I'm just going to push that together. Now, if you want to, you can add a little bit of weaving wire just to anchor it down into position. But you might not need to, providing you just give it a little flatten at the end. They're not quite symmetrical there. But I think it will do. So I've just added on whatever little curls and swirls that I want to do for the arm. And now I can start working on the bail. So you can see, even with going quite slow, this is a really quick make. You're going to end up with a really lovely finished product, but I reckon it would probably take you maybe about half an hour. Obviously, the more practiced you are with your weaving, the quicker you'll get. If you're fairly new to it, take your time. The way you're going to make this beautifully neat is going slowly on those wraps. Good morning, Janice. She says, good morning, Natalie and fellow beaders. She's very late this morning. She's what was the kitten? Oh, she's got a kitten called Willow. She's had to take Kitten to the vets. I hope Willow's okay. So she's going to rewatch later. Okay, so I've still got this tail end attached here, and I'm going to keep that because I'm going to use that for my bail. So to make my bail, I'm going to use my bail step pliers. You can use your round nose pliers if you want to. Let me just have a sip of coffee. But what I find is good with the bail nose pliers or your bail step pliers is it's evenly distributed, that width. If you're using round nose, it's tapered. So I want something which is going to have the same width all the way round really when I bend it. You can use a pencil or you could just use your fingers. But I'm going to come in with my bail step so I know that when I bring that wire over, it's going to be even on both sides. So I'm going to position my pliers just above that weave. I'm going to bend those wires slightly forward over the top. Not hugely, it's not going to be perfectly 90 degrees, but I'm bending it over so that when I bring it back over the wire, it's going to sit fairly even at the top. It's not going to be, it's going to sit neat at the top. So then I'm just going to reposition my pliers. So I'm using, again, you can use your pencil or whatever at this point, but I'm just going to bring both of those two wires right over. So I've created that loop. And by using the bail step pliers, both are going to be the same bend. If I use my round nose, I might find it kind of ends up with one higher than the other. So just popped in whatever it is, pencil or whatever with the same width. I'm going to just bring that all the way round. So the tail ends of my cross are now running along the back. And I'm going to use this 0.4 weaving wire to bind that bail together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it round all the way around those top bits and the back I've just brought over, and I'm going to wrap that neatly 3 times. So it's just going to sit on the top of that coil, and then I'm going to bring it through this little hole in the bail. Every now and again, if you need to, you can just pop your pliers or whatever back in just to make sure that's not moved out of position. And I'm going to wrap that 3 times just over the back 2 parts of that bail. Now, if you've got a length still here, you can use that to make more coils on the top if you want to. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trim this off. So I'm going to trim just slightly longer than these 2 bits here, this part of the bail. And that way I've got that little tiny bit of length just sticking out here at the side, which means I'm going to be able to come in with my pliers and tuck it into the back of the bail. So it's going to be on the inside. Give it a little squish. Just tuck that tail end inside the bail so it's not going to catch on anything. It's going to finish in there. So I've now got the bail on my pendant, and I'm going to use these little bits that are left just to add a little bit of decoration and a little bit of swirl at the top. You can do whatever you want with this. You can cut it and trim it and then just have it neat along the top. You can add swirls, you can add curls, you can do whatever you like. Just having a little read. Phoenix says she's picked up some jump rings and a bail mandrel. Yeah, if you wanted to, you could add a jump ring into this. But I've created this bail so when you put your chain through, it's going to sit forward at the top. If you are to put a jump ring in, you might need to put another jump ring in the top of that, just so it sits forward, if that makes sense. Tutu says it's gorgeous. Thank you very, very much. Oh, thank you, Ruth. She says, click the like button if you like what we do. Give us a thumbs up or a heart. It is much, much appreciated. I think on YouTube, we've just hit 12.5 thousand subscribers. So if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe on there as well. You won't miss any of our tutorials. Thank you, Julie. She says you make it look so easy. It's just practice and something I absolutely love to do. All right, I'm going to now start to use these little bits as decoration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully put a little bit of pressure on my bail, just so it doesn't move out. If you want to, you can pop your bail step pliers back in and hold it in place there. And I'm going to splay these two wires that are coming off the back. And I'm just going to bend them right out. Like this. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure either with my tool or with my finger just to hold that as I start to bend the wires around the front. So at the front of my pendant, I've now got two sticking up here. And I'm just going to use them to make a little bit of a curl, a little bit of a decoration. So I'm going to let them cross over first. So I'm just doing that with my fingers. I am going to come in with my pliers and just push them close to the cross because I don't want them sticking out too much and catching on anything. So I'm just going to use a little bit of pressure to flatten them down. And then I'm going to start to make a little swirl going down and a little swirl going up. So I'm just using my nail here just to start to kind of shape that into position and do whatever I want with it. I'm going to have one coming down, I'm going to go one up. So I'm going to bend that across there. Again, just keep making sure that the body of your cross is running straight. We want this top part still in line with the bottom. And then I'm going to just trim off. So I'm using the flush part of my cutters just to trim a little bit off. I might trim a little bit more. In with my round nose pliers again, just to give that a little bit of a curl and tuck that into itself. So I want to make sure that the point of my curl is sitting inside the other part. I don't want it kind of able to catch on anything. I'm going to give that another little trim. Just pop my pliers back in and then reposition it with my tools, making sure it's nice and close. And then the same with this side here. Going to come and give that a little bit of a trim. going to get my round nose pliers and I'm going to curl that in. Trim a little tiny bit more. I always just trim a little bit as I go, because obviously once you've cut it, you can't put it back on. So just have a little look, do a little bit at a time. And I think I'm fairly happy with that. Pop my bail making pliers in again just to straighten that up if it needs to. And I have my gorgeous gemstone cross all done and dusted in less than an hour. Tutu says it's gorgeous. Margaret says it was a perfect demo. Thank you very, very much. Paula says absolutely stunning. Camille says love, love, love this one. Heidi says she can't wait to have a go. Sheila says, just love this, Natalie. You're so clever. Thank you so much. Joanne says, I think it'll look great in antique bronze. Yes, it would. But then I've got a liking for antique bronze at the moment. Have a little look on the website, Joanne. We've got lots of different colours of wire. We do have a gorgeous bronzy brown colour. All I would suggest is, I mean, you could do a different weaving wire. You could do a 0.3 rather than a 0.4. But make sure you've got that 1mm wire, because that's going to give you the strength. If you go down a little bit and you're doing a 0.8, 0.8 is fine for this part for the decoration. But sometimes I just find doing the base of the cross, it can be, I wouldn't necessarily say it's flimsy. I just think it's not as lovely and sturdy as the 1mm. David says it's fab. Lucy says it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Mina says fabulous tutorial and thank you. Jackie says lovely cross. Elaine says it's absolutely beautiful. Rachel's given me a big fab. Joanne says it's gorgeous. Thank you. Jane says gorgeous. I'm not religious, so I would love to make it into a sword. It will be fab. I'm a lady metal detectorist. That sounds amazing. If you wanted to make this into a sword, I would make this part just a little bit longer. So if I use my diagram here, you can see I've got that pretty much bob on. But what I would do is I would make this part longer. And when I come to shape that wire, what I would probably do, Jane, is I would bring the two wires running down here, but I would probably try and put a point on the end. So instead of giving it a curve as I close those wires over, I would try and shape it into a little bit of a point, if that makes sense. And then you could have that looking like a little sword. Oh, you are very, very welcome. Phoenix says, too many lovely things on the website. I just need an excuse to make things. A tiny flat would be full of makes with no home. Give them away. That's what I do. Linda says, absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait for my kids to arrive. Camille says, exceptional. Love it. Clever teacher. Thank you. We'll have a go later. Enjoyed this one. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Jane. So if you would like to make along with these kits, they are an absolute bargain on the website. I mean, we've gone for the gorgeous 6mm round gemstone because they're faceted and they're gorgeous. We're using 2 gauges of wire, the 1mm wire, which I think is 18 gauge, and the 0.4, which I think is 26 gauge. Could be wrong. Please let me know if you watched in America and I've got that completely wrong. I do apologise. The kits today are an absolute bargain price. You can buy one of these kits which has got everything you need in it, the gemstones too, for £2.99. But we've also got that offer on where you can buy all 3 gorgeous kits for the price of 2. So an absolute bargain. Lavita says, thank you so much. You are so welcome. Here again is the link if you're looking at where you can find our tutorials. I am with you twice a week. Kitty's here as well. So Kitty will be back with you on Friday. I'm going to be back with you on Monday, and I'm going to be making some lovely little spring earrings. So hopefully, if you are celebrating Easter and you want a nice traditional gift, you can order these today and they'll be with you wherever you're watching in the world, hopefully way on time for you to be able to make them on time for Easter. Have a lovely, lovely week, and I will see you on Monday. Take care, everybody.